That song's quite interesting because it's actually about someone in particular that I know and like very, very much.
My charm dripping like fresh honey. I'm the Milky Bar kid. Soiled trousers, shiny cheekbones like graveyards in the sun.
And you know, I've used the word slumlord, which is obviously about people that control poor housing, because it's quite a horrible process.
In the daylight, leaning out of windows, some road laughing, no one's gonna say anything very nice.
Well, it's just about a kind of person that lives a life at the expense of others and has a cruel, unsympathetic nature sometimes, only sometimes. But I've made it into a kind of a Charles Dickens. Grimy is a word, I don't know if you have that word in French. Grimy meaning kind of dirty, squalid. When was the song born? Was probably, I started writing everything about maybe a year ago. Very quick process, wrote it and recorded it very quickly. So a year ago, I mean, maybe some of the topics of these songs have existed in my brain or my mind, or I've thought about them. That song's quite interesting because it's actually about someone in particular that I know and like very, very much. And they probably know that it's about them. But I've made an impression of that person via a kind of cartoon villain, so I could say what I liked. It was like a vehicle of free speech.
Road laughing, no one's gonna say anything very nice.
You can't feel inspired. I think these things just happen, don't they? Like when you're under, not pressure, but there's a period where when you're in a cycle of work, you make an album, you hopefully tour that album, and then you have a free period, and the subjects that come to mind are the subjects you quickly write. You quickly exploit what surfaces as a topic.
Unless you got nothing to say, just don't say it.
There was a very serious dance instructor. I can never say the word choreography. How do you say that? Choreography? I can never say that word. The dance instructor was pretty serious.
Taps always dripping, sleeping in the daylight, leaning out of windows, some road laughing, no one's gonna say anything very nice.
It's kind of a lazy, you adapt characters in songs as a way of being able to say what you don't always want to be responsible for saying. You can, what you call launder, I don't know if that's a French word, you can kind of, you can use that character to explain something that you might feel uncomfortable about. I mean, the video is the video director's interpretation of my song, so they're having another free, they're creatively free to interpret what I did. So it doesn't totally, completely 100% tie in. She had no humour, but was brilliant. And I had to try and explain to her that I was never going to do what she wanted. She was in control of the other dancers, but it was quite scary, me trying to persuade her that I didn't want to do what she wanted me to do, because she obviously wanted me to be in a sequence with them. It's not a really great anecdote, I'm telling you, but it was quite scary. The woman was quite scary, and she still is quite scary. But I think the whole video benefited from my free modernist interpretation of dancing, and they were more programmed to do something. I think the contrast was interesting. The song is more a tribute, so maybe there's a groove in it that suggests, it's a sort of naive interpretation of, but it isn't it doesn't directly reference hip hop. The reference is deeply buried. You wouldn't necessarily see traces of this, but I was listening to a lot of Biggie Smalls, and that's what I mean, the energy by the way I sing is meant to be that slightly arrogant sermonizing. It's called sermonizing. You know, you're kind of telling you how I want to tell you, and it doesn't really matter what you think. And then there's a kind of a tempo that's borrowed from hip hop. It actually sounds more like a sort of poor David Bowie interpretation, but I didn't see that when I made it, but only afterwards. So actually, by the time we finished it, we put some kind of cowbells, stealing totally off David Bowie. So then it went really David Bowie. But the source of it was always 90s hip hop.